I am Tom Bennett, and on the day of my daughter Ella's wedding to Ethan Crowe, I found myself bussing tables at the lavish event in Charleston. The Harbor House Hotel buzzed with elegance, crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables draped in white linens, and the harbor view stretched out like a postcard under the late afternoon sun. I wore a simple black vest over a white shirt, the kind that made me indistinguishable from the other staff. My hands, calloused from years of kitchen work, carried trays of half-eaten plates and empty glasses, weaving through clusters of guests in designer gowns and suits. Ella looked radiant in her lace dress, her smile lighting up as she danced with her new husband. I had helped plan parts of this day, scraping together what I could from my modest job, but Ethan insisted on footing most of the bill. His family had money, and his startup was the talk of the town. As I cleared a table near the head table, Ethan spotted me. He stood tall in his tailored tuxedo, a glass of champagne in hand, surrounded by a group of investors and friends who nodded along to his boasts. "See that guy over there," he said, his voice booming with that confident edge he always had. He pointed right at me, not even lowering his tone. "That's Ella's dad, Tom. The hired help for our big day. Bussing tables like it's his calling. Hey, keep it moving, old man, don't want you slowing down the party." The group around him chuckled, a few patting him on the back as if it were all in good fun. One woman in a sequin dress raised her glass, saying, "To family traditions." I felt the heat rise in my face, but I swallowed it down, wiping a non-existent spot on the tablecloth and stacking the plates quietly. Ella glanced over from across the room, her eyes meeting mine for a brief second. Concern flickered there, but she turned back to her conversation. Ethan had no clue about my past. He saw only the man who fixed cars part-time and waited tables to make ends meet. But I had built something real once, a chain of 14 upscale restaurants stretching from Miami to Savannah, places where celebrities dined and food critics raved. My name had been in food magazines, and I turned down TV deals that could have made me a household name. That life ended when Lena got sick, and I chose family over fame. Still, hearing him call me hired help in front of everyone stung, but I held my silence, knowing the night was far from over. Years before that wedding day, my life took a turn that no one, least of all Ethan, could have imagined. It started in the spring of 2018, when Lena, my wife of 25 years, sat me down in our small kitchen in Savannah. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, catching the steam from her tea. She had been quieter lately, her laughter less frequent during our evening walks along the river. "Tom," she said, her voice steady but soft, the doctor confirmed it. "Stage 3. We need to plan. Cancer." The word hung in the air like smoke. Lena had always been the strong one, the organizer, the one who kept our family grounded while I chased dreams in the restaurant world. I owned 14 restaurants by then, a thriving empire that spanned Florida and Georgia. From the upscale seafood spot in Miami Beach, where waves crashed just beyond the patio, to the cozy Italian bistro in Atlanta with its exposed brick walls and candlelit tables, each place bore my touch. I had started with one little diner in Jacksonville after culinary school, flipping burgers and dreaming big. Hard work turned it into a chain. Critics praised my fusion dishes, think fresh Georgia peaches in a grilled snapper glaze or low-country shrimp with a hint of citrus from Florida groves. Awards piled up, 3 James Beard nominations, features in Food and Wine magazine, even a cookbook deal that hit the bestseller list for a month. TV producers called constantly, offering spots on cooking shows. One network wanted a whole series, Tom Bennett's Southern Table, with episodes filmed in my kitchens. It meant national exposure, endorsements, maybe even a line of spices in grocery stores. But Lena's diagnosis changed everything. The treatments began immediately, chemotherapy sessions twice a week at the clinic in Savannah, followed by radiation that left her exhausted. Our daughter Ella was just finishing college in Charleston, studying graphic design with dreams of her own. She drove down every weekend, her car packed with groceries and books to read aloud when Lena couldn't sleep. I remember the first night after the news, sitting in the living room with the TV off, Lena's head on my shoulder. "We fight this together," I told her. "No distractions." The next day, I called my business manager. Selling the restaurants wasn't easy. Offers came in waves, big chains wanted to buy out the whole portfolio, but I held out for the right buyers, local entrepreneurs who promised to keep the staff and the spirit alive. The Miami place went to a young couple from culinary school. They even invited me to consult once a month. The Atlanta Bistro sold to a nonprofit that turned it into a training ground for young chefs. By fall, the deals closed. $14 million hit our accounts, enough to cover medical bills that climbed into six figures and secure our future. The TV deals? I turned them down flat. One producer flew in from New York, all smiles and contracts, promising fame. "Tom, this is your moment," he said over lunch at one of my spots. "Lena would want you to shine." But I knew better. Lena needed me there, not on a soundstage in Los Angeles. She needed quiet mornings making her herbal tea, afternoons driving to appointments, evenings holding her hand through the nausea. So I walked away. The quiet life suited us at first. We moved to a smaller house near the coast, nothing fancy, just a place with a garden where Lena could watch the birds. I took up hourly work to stay busy, fixing cars at a local garage in the mornings, then waiting tables at a diner in the evenings. The pay was modest, but it kept me close to home. No more board meetings or supplier negotiations, just the rhythm of the day, punctuated by family. Ella worried about me at first. After graduation, she landed a job at a design firm in Charleston, but she called every night. "Dad, you gave up everything," she'd say, her voice thick. Mom wouldn't want that. But I saw it differently. Real success wasn't in the spotlight or the bank balance, it was in the choices that let you be present. During Lena's 4-year battle, we had time for beach picnics when she felt strong, time for storytelling sessions where Ella sketched illustrations for my old recipes. Lena's hair fell out in clumps during the first round of chemo, but we bought her colorful scarves and turned it into a game. The cancer spread to her liver in year 2, slowing us down, but we adapted. I learned to cook softer foods, purees with flavors she loved, like her favorite tomato bisque from our early dating days. Ella moved back home temporarily, helping with the caregiving while building her portfolio on the side. Those years tested us, but they forged something unbreakable. Lena's strength inspired me daily. She'd rally for Ella's visits, sharing advice on life and love, always pushing her to chase happiness. "Find someone who sees your worth, sweetheart," she'd say, squeezing Ella's hand. When suitors came along, Lena vetted them quietly, her eyes sharp even on tough days. Ethan entered the picture in year 3 of her illness. He was charming, ambitious, with his startup ideas about app development for small businesses. Ella met him at a networking event in Charleston. He swept her off her feet with grand gestures, weekend getaways, promises of a future in the city. Lena liked his drive but warned me privately, "Watch how he treats the everyday people, Tom. That's the real measure." I nodded, but with her health declining, I focused on what mattered most. By the 4th year, the treatments shifted to palliative care. Lena weakened, her once vibrant energy fading. We spent her last months in the garden, talking about legacies. "You built an empire once," she whispered one evening as the sun set. "Now build memories." She passed peacefully in our bed, surrounded by us, with Ella's drawings on the walls and my hand in hers. The grief hit like a storm, but it clarified things. I kept the hourly jobs, not out of necessity, but choice. The garage work grounded me, tinkering with engines a far cry from fine dining. Waiting tables reminded me of my roots, the humility in service. Ella thrived in Charleston, her career taking off, but she leaned on me more after losing her mom. When she got engaged to Ethan, I supported it, seeing her joy. The wedding planning ramped up, and Ethan, with his deep pockets from investor funding, took charge. He suggested I help with setup, maybe bus tables to save on staff costs. It's family involvement, he said casually. I agreed, wanting to be there for Ella, not suspecting how it would unfold. Looking back, those years after selling the restaurants shaped who I became, the man in the vest at the wedding, yes, but also the father who prioritized presence over prestige. Ethan's mockery would come later, but in that moment of reflection, as the first dance began at the reception, I felt a quiet resolve. The past had prepared me for what was next. The wedding reception was in full swing when the first dance began. Ella and Ethan glided across the polished floor of the Harbor House ballroom, the string quartet playing a soft melody that filled the air. Guests clustered around, phones out to capture the moment, their faces lit with smiles. I stood off to the side, near the service entrance, a tray of cleared plates balanced in my hands. My vest felt tighter now, the evening's heat pressing in from the open doors leading to the harbor terrace. Ethan had just finished another round of toasts, his voice echoing with stories of his startup's latest funding round. To building empires, he declared, clinking glasses with his investors. I caught Ella's eye again. She looked happy, but there was a tightness in her posture, perhaps from the earlier incident. I set the tray down in the kitchen pass-through and stepped out for a breath of fresh air. The parking lot behind the hotel was quieter, lined with limousines and the catering trucks. The sun had dipped low, painting the sky in oranges and purples over the water. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a text from a friend who couldn't make it. Instead, it was an unknown number from a Charleston area code. I answered hesitantly. Tom Bennett speaking. Mr. Bennett? This is Sarah Klein from WCSC-TV, Channel 2 News. We're in a bind here at the Harbor House. We're filming a live segment for our Taste of Charleston special, focusing on local food trucks and unsung heroes in the culinary world. Our scheduled chef just called in sick, and we're going live in 10 minutes. I saw your name on a quick search, former restaurant owner, award-winning chef. Are you available? The truck's right here in the lot. I paused, glancing back at the ballroom doors. The music swelled inside, laughter spilling out. My mind raced. It had been years since I'd been in front of a camera, longer since I'd cooked publicly. But something in Sarah's urgent tone pulled at me. What do you need? I asked. She explained quickly, a short demo of a family recipe, something simple yet signature, tied to themes of dignity in service work. The segment aimed to highlight everyday contributors to Charleston's food scene, especially with the wedding crowd nearby, perfect tie-in for a feel-good story. We have a mobile kitchen set up in the truck. You can do it in what you're wearing, it'll add authenticity. I looked down at my vest and slacks, the uniform of the evening. No time to change. All right, I said. I'm on my way. The food truck was a sleek white van parked at the edge of the lot, its side panel open to reveal a compact kitchen, gleaming counters, a portable stove, and racks of fresh ingredients. Sarah, a producer in her 30s with a clipboard and headset, rushed over as I approached. Two cameramen adjusted lights, and a sound tech clipped a mic to my collar. Tom, we're rolling in 5. Keep it natural, talk about your journey, why service matters. What's the dish? I scanned the supplies: shrimp, corn, tomatoes, herbs. My mind went straight to a family staple, low-country shrimp and grits, but simplified for the demo, a version Lena and I perfected during our early years. Before the empire grew. Shrimp sauté with a quick corn relish, I decided. It's about fresh, honest flavors, like the work behind it. Sarah nodded, signaling the crew. The red light on the camera blinked on. Welcome back to Taste of Charleston, the anchor's voice came through the monitor, pre-recorded intro playing. Then it cut live to me. I stood at the counter, the harbor lights twinkling behind. Hi, I'm Tom Bennett, and tonight I'm showing you how dignity in service starts with respect for the ingredients, and the people handling them. I poured oil into a hot pan, the sizzle immediate and familiar. My hands moved on instinct, deveining shrimp with a quick twist, chopping tomatoes into neat dice, tossing corn kernels with a dash of vinegar and herbs for the relish. As I stirred, I spoke evenly, the words flowing without a script. I've spent decades in kitchens, from small diners to larger operations. Service isn't just a job, it's a choice. It means showing up, every day, with care. Whether you're behind the line or clearing tables, it's about building something that nourishes others. The camera zoomed in as I plated the dish, shrimp glistening over creamy grits, topped with the bright relish. I plated a sample and took a bite on air, the flavors hitting like memory: salty sea, sweet corn, a tang that reminded me of summer evenings with Lena and Ella. Sarah whispered in my earpiece, "Perfect, wrap with a personal note." I looked straight at the lens. In my life, I've learned that true wealth is the freedom to serve on your terms. Whether in a white jacket or a vest, it's the heart that counts. The segment ended with applause from the crew, Sarah beaming. "That was gold, Tom. We'll air clips immediately on socials." I thanked them, unclipping the mic, my pulse steadying. It felt good, like stretching a muscle long dormant. But as I turned to head back inside, the parking lot stirred. Guests from the wedding had trickled out, some drawn by the lights, others hearing the buzz. Phones were out, live streaming the truck. "Is that the waiter from inside?" someone murmured. Then Ethan appeared, striding across the asphalt with purpose, his tux jacket slung over one shoulder. He must have seen the commotion from the terrace. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, approaching the truck. "Tom, you're supposed to be working the event, not playing chef out here." His voice carried, sharp and annoyed, drawing more eyes. Sarah stepped forward, mic still in hand. "Actually, Mr. Crow, this is live TV. Tom's our guest expert." Ethan's face shifted, confusion, then recognition as the anchor's voiceover played on the broadcast screens nearby. "Joining us is Tom Bennett, celebrated chef and author." Guests gathered, murmuring. One investor from the head table pulled out his phone, searching my name. "Wait, the Tom Bennett? The one with the restaurant chain?" The realization spread like ripples. Ethan tried to interject, stepping closer to the camera setup. "This is a private event. You can't just..." But the cameras kept rolling, capturing the exchange. A young woman in a bridesmaid's dress gasped. "That's the guy Ethan was joking about earlier. The hired help." Laughter turned to whispers, then a wave of recognition. My cookbook from years back popped up on screens as social feeds lit up, #WaiterChef trending locally in minutes. Ethan froze, his interruption only amplifying the moment. People from the wedding rushed toward the lot, clustering around the truck, asking questions. "How did you start? What's the recipe?" I answered calmly, plating extra samples, the vest now a badge rather than a disguise. Inside, the first dance had paused, screens in the ballroom relayed the live feed. Ella watched from the doorway, her expression shifting from surprise to something deeper. The segment wrapped, but the energy didn't. Sarah handed me her card. "Call us for a follow-up." As the crowd dispersed slightly, Ethan shot me a look, equal parts anger and unease, before turning back inside. I followed slowly, the weight of the evening lifting. The call had come at the perfect time, turning mockery into revelation. Service, dignity, it was all coming full circle that I made my way back into the Harbor House ballroom. The crowd parting slightly as whispers followed me. The air inside felt thicker now, charged with the hum of conversations that had shifted tone. The string quartet had resumed, but the first dance was long over, replaced by clusters of guests huddled around the large screens mounted on the walls. Those screens still replayed snippets of the TV segment, my face filling the frame as I stirred the pan, talking about dignity in service. Phones were everywhere, notifications pinging as social media feeds exploded with clips. Hashtags like #waiter2chef and #HarborHowSurprise trended in Charleston almost instantly, drawing comments from locals who remembered my restaurant days. "Is that the guy who owned Bennett's Bistro?" one post read. "Knew he stepped away for family, respect." Ethan stood near the head table, his face flushed under the chandelier lights. He gripped a fresh glass of champagne, scanning the room as if trying to regain control. Ella was beside him, her gown slightly rumpled from the evening, her eyes wide as she watched the screen. She turned when she saw me approach, stepping forward with a mix of confusion and relief. "Dad? What just happened out there?" Before I could answer, a wave of guests surged toward us, old acquaintances from the food scene, distant relatives, even some of Ethan's investors. "Tom Bennett. I dined at your Savannah spot back in '15, an older man in a suit said, shaking my hand vigorously. "That shrimp dish, unforgettable." I nodded politely, but my focus stayed on the task ahead. In my pocket, next to my phone, I carried a slim folder, paperwork I'd brought just in case the day turned personal. It wasn't planned, but intuition told me to have it ready. As the crowd thickened, Ethan pushed through, his voice cutting sharp. "Everyone, let's get back to the party. This is a wedding, not a cooking show." He shot me a glare, the earlier mockery now laced with something like fear. But the momentum had shifted, no one moved away. Instead, more eyes turned to me, the hired help now the center of attention. I waited until the quartet paused for a break, the room falling into an expectant hush. Then, with steady hands, I pulled out the folder and laid it open on the nearest table, under the glow of a centerpiece lamp. The pages spread out, sales contracts from the restaurant deals, yellowed but crisp, stacks of medical bills from Lena's treatments, red stamps faded but clear, framed award certificates I'd tucked in, James Beard finalist plaques, cookbook reviews clipped from magazines. Guests leaned in, murmuring as they recognized the documents. One woman gasped at the bill totals, another pointed to a headline, "Bennett Empire sold, chef chooses family over fortune." I spoke then, my voice calm and even, addressing the room but locking eyes with Ella. "Folks, I appreciate the kind words. But let's clear the air. Years ago, I built something big, 14 restaurants, from Miami to Atlanta. It was a life of acclaim, deals, even TV offers that could have changed everything. I tapped the sales papers. Sold it all for $14 million, not for more money, but for time. My wife, Lena, fought cancer for 4 years. Chemo, radiation, hospital stays, these bills tell the story." I slid one toward Ethan, who stood rigid. I walked away from the spotlight to be there, for her, for our daughter Ella. Chose hourly work at garages and diners, not because I had to, but because it let me stay close. Fix a car in the morning, serve a meal at night, simple choices that meant presence over prestige. The room was silent now, save for the distant harbor waves. Ella's hand went to her mouth, tears welling as she traced a bill with her finger. She knew the broad strokes, but seeing it laid bare hit differently. "Real wealth," I continued, gesturing to the awards, "isn't in bank accounts or startups. It's the freedom to choose meaningful work, to show up for family when it counts most. I bust tables tonight not as hired help, but to support Ella on her day. Service has dignity, no matter the vest or the suit." I looked directly at Ethan then. "Treating people otherwise? That's the real poverty." Ethan shifted, his jaw tightening. He opened his mouth to respond, but the words caught. Around us, nods rippled through the crowd. One of his investors, a silver-haired man I'd seen toasting earlier, stepped forward. "Tom, I invested in Ethan's app last year, but this, your story, reminds me why I started in business. People first." Others chimed in, a cousin of Ella's sharing how my restaurants employed her family, a bridesmaid admitting she'd pre-ordered my cookbook after the segment. The energy built, turning the reception into something more, a conversation on values, not just celebration. Ella finally spoke, her voice soft but clear, stepping away from Ethan toward me. "Dad, I had no idea it was all here, like this." She glanced back at her husband, her expression shifting for the first time that night, from adoring wife to questioning partner. It was subtle, a furrow in her brow, a hesitation in her stance. Ethan noticed too, his hand reached for hers, but she pulled back slightly, eyes on the paperwork. "You gave up so much for us," she said to me. "And I let him." She trailed off, the weight of his earlier words sinking in. The mockery replayed in her mind, I could see it, the way he'd pointed, laughed. For the first time, doubt crept into her joy, a crack in the foundation of their fresh marriage. I placed a hand on her shoulder, gentle. "It's your day, sweetheart. Choices are just that, yours to make." The folder stayed open, a testament on the table, as guests began to disperse with renewed respect. Some approached to share their own stories of sacrifice, others snapped photos of the documents for their feeds. Social media kept buzzing, clips of my speech circulating alongside the cooking demo, amassing thousands of views. Ethan stood apart now, isolated in the crowd he once commanded, his startup bravado dimmed. He tried to rally, calling for the cake cutting, but the moment had passed its peak. As the night wound down, I folded the papers away, the weight of revelation settling. Ella hugged me tightly before rejoining the guests, her glance back at Ethan lingering with new scrutiny. The hall, once a stage for his boasts, now echoed with quieter truths. I'd come as a father, left as something more, a reminder that true character shows in how we value others. The cameras might have been on me earlier, but in that hall, every eye saw the real story. The days following the wedding blurred into a whirlwind I never anticipated. I drove back to my modest home in Savannah the next morning, the harbor fading in my rearview mirror as the sun rose over the interstate. Ella and Ethan had left for their honeymoon in the Keys, but not before she pulled me aside at the airport drop-off, her eyes still carrying that newfound doubt. "Dad, thank you for everything," she said, hugging me longer than usual. "I'll call soon." Ethan nodded stiffly from the car, his usual charm subdued. I waved them off, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. Little did I know, the clip from the TV segment, and the hall confrontation, had ignited something far beyond Charleston. By afternoon, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications flooded in, emails, texts, voicemails. The first was from Sarah at WCSC-TV. "Tom, the segment's a hit. Over 50,000 views on our site already, and it's spreading on TikTok and Instagram." I clicked the link she sent. There I was, in my server vest, sautéing shrimp under the truck's lights, speaking about dignity. Comments poured in, "This man is a legend," humbled my whole outlook. From empire to empathy, real hero. Shares hit thousands within hours, amplified by wedding guests who posted their own angles. The hashtag dignity in service trended regionally, then nationally, as food influencers picked it up. One viral thread dissected the full story, Ethan's mockery captured on a guest's phone, my calm response in the hall, the paperwork laid bare. The son-in-law got schooled, one post read, with 10,000 likes. That evening, as I unpacked in my quiet kitchen, still smelling faintly of the takeout I'd grabbed on the drive, my old cookbook resurfaced like a ghost from the past. Bennett's Southern Secrets, self-published after my first big award, had languished out of print for years. But by nightfall, Amazon alerts pinged, sales spiking. I checked the rankings, it jumped from obscurity to the top 100 in cookbooks, then top 10 in regional cuisine. Orders came from across the country, some fans remembering my restaurants, others discovering me through the video. A local bookstore in Savannah called at 8 p.m. "Tom, we've got a restock request. Can we host a signing?" I agreed, stunned. The book, with its dog-eared recipes and photos of Lena smiling in our early kitchens, suddenly felt alive again. Interviews followed like clockwork. The next morning, a producer from a national food network reached out, ironic, since I'd turned them down years ago. "We saw the clip. Your message on service and family resonates. Podcast slot next week?" I took it, speaking from my garage workbench, tools scattered around me. Then came local papers. The Post and Courier wanted a feature on my comeback. I sat for a phone interview, recounting the wedding without bitterness, focusing on choices. "I didn't go back for glory," I told the reporter. "But if it highlights respect in work, that's enough." By midweek, a morning show in Atlanta flew me in for a live demo, same vest, this time by choice, cooking Lena's tomato bisque while sharing stories of her fight. Viewers called in, sharing their own sacrifices. One woman teared up, saying it inspired her to reconcile with her family. Amid the buzz, opportunity knocked from an unexpected quarter. My former sous chef, Marcus Hale, called from his spot in Savannah. We'd worked together for a decade, him rising through my kitchens from line cook to partner. After I sold the chain, he stayed on with one of the buyers, running a bistro near the riverfront. Tom saw the video. "People are talking Empire revival. What if we team up? Small place, open kitchen, your vision, my operations." I met him at a coffee shop the next day, overlooking the squares. Marcus, broad-shouldered and quick with a laugh, spread out sketches, a cozy 50-seat spot called Harbor Echo, nodding to the wedding. "Focus on fresh, local, apprenticeships for service workers. Your story draws them in." We talked numbers. My savings from the sales covered startup costs without loans. Permits moved fast, thanks to city interest in the viral tale. By month's end, we broke ground on a riverside lot I'd years ago. Opening night loomed in 3 months, menus blending my classics with Marcus's twists, shrimp and grits elevated, but rooted in humility. Meanwhile, Ethan's world unraveled in ways I learned secondhand. Ella called daily from the honeymoon, her voice strained at first, then resolute. "He's been quiet, Dad." The videos everywhere. Back in Charleston, his startup hit snags. Clients pulled out. That silver-haired investor from the wedding emailed me personally, "Tom, your word stuck. Ethan's app is solid, but character matters. We're redirecting funds." News trickled through industry chats. 2 more backers cited the clip, wary of associating with someone who belittled service workers. Ethan's boasts about building empires rang hollow now, contracts stalled, partnerships dissolved. A tech blog even ran a piece, "Wedding Wake Up, How One Video Tanked a Startup Founder's Republic." He posted a half-hearted apology on LinkedIn, learning humility, but it backfired, drawing more scrutiny. Ella confided during one call, "He's defensive, says it was a joke. But seeing those bills, your choices, it makes me question." Their return flight was tense. She stayed with a friend initially, needing space. The viral momentum built my new chapter while underscoring his fall. Book sales topped 5,000 copies that week, royalties funding the restaurant's build-out. Interviews expanded, a spot on a national podcast where I discussed work-life balance, drawing from Lena's illness. "Cancer taught me presence trumps prestige," I said, voice steady. Listeners responded, emails from aspiring chefs, single parents in service jobs, all seeking advice. Marcus and I hired our first apprentice, a young woman from a diner background, her tuition covered by a fund we set up. The open kitchen concept took shape, glass walls letting patrons see the team at work. No hierarchy, just collaboration. As weeks passed, the clip's reach grew exponential, hitting millions across platforms. It inspired challenges, people sharing their service stories, tagging #TomBennettEffect. My quiet life amplified into purpose, the vest from the wedding framed on the restaurant wall as a reminder. Ethan's unraveling served as caution, Ella's questions deepened, her support for me unwavering. In the eye of it all, I felt Lena's influence, her belief in meaningful choices echoing through every step. The restaurant opening in Savannah approached like a tide I couldn't outrun, but the real twists came from Ethan's direction, pulling our family into uncharted waters. It started a week after the viral clip peaked, with over 10 million views across platforms. I was at the construction site for Harbor Echo, knee-deep in decisions: tile choices for the open kitchen floor, sourcing local shrimp suppliers, training the first batch of apprentices. Marcus and I had hired 5 young workers, kids of service industry parents, their fees waived through a small fund I'd seeded from book royalties. One, a teen named Javier, shadowed me daily, his eyes wide as he learned knife skills. "Mr. Bennett, why give this chance?" he asked one afternoon, chopping onions under the scaffold sun. "Because someone gave me one once," I replied. "Pay it forward." My phone rang mid-conversation, Ella's name on the screen. She sounded hesitant, the Charleston skyline visible in her video call background from her apartment. "Dad, Ethan's been different since we got back. The contracts fell through, 3 big ones. He's home all day, pacing." I set down my tools, wiping sweat from my brow. "How's he handling it?" She paused. "Not well at first. Blamed the video, everything. But last night, he asked about your story. Said he wants to learn respect." "Like, really learn?" I leaned against a beam, the river breeze carrying sawdust. "Ethan, the startup king, seeking lessons?" It felt like the universe's quiet joke. He showed up 2 days later, unannounced, at my Savannah doorstep. The evening light cast long shadows on the porch where Lena and I used to sit. Ethan stood there in jeans and a plain shirt, no suit, no swagger, hands in pockets, looking smaller than at the wedding. "Tom," he started, voice low. I messed up. The mockery, the attitude, it cost me. Clients ghosted, investors bailed. Ella's pulling away. I need to change. Teach me respect. I invited him in, pouring coffee at the kitchen table. He sat, eyes on the framed photo of my old restaurants. "What do you want exactly?" I asked. He shifted. "Something real. Not another app or pitch. Show me what service means, like you did." I thought on it overnight. Lena's words echoed, "Watch how he treats everyday people." This could be his test. The next morning, I met him at the construction site. "Respect starts at the bottom," I said. "Harbor Echo opens soon, but we need night shift help. Dishwasher position, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., scrubbing pots, no glory. Take it or leave it." His face fell, but he nodded. "I'll do it." That night, he reported to the temp setup in a rented kitchen space nearby, sleeves rolled up, facing stacks of industrial sinks. Marcus texted me updates: "Kid's quiet, but he's showing up." Ethan lasted the week, hands pruned from hot water, back aching from bending. He called Ella after shifts, voice weary but earnest. "It's humbling, babe. Makes me see what you and Tom went through." The first twist settled him into routine, but the second came from the investor's corner, ironic echoes of my own past choices. As Harbor Echo neared completion, offers poured in. The viral story had drawn attention. A group of food industry backers, impressed by the apprenticeship model, approached Marcus and me at a site visit. "Tom, we've pooled funds, $500,000 for expansion. Franchises in Atlanta, Miami. Scale it like your old empire." They laid out plans, multiple locations, marketing tie-ins with the video, even TV spots. Marcus's eyes lit up. It mirrored my early days, the rush of growth. Javier and the apprentices gathered around, excited at the prospect. "We could train dozens," one said. I walked the half-built dining room alone that night, the open kitchen framework gleaming under work lights. Memories flooded, the thrill of opening my first chain spot, the exhaustion of managing 14, the day I sold it all for Lena's bedside. Expansion meant reach, yes, more jobs, more stories shared. But it also meant boardrooms, travel, the very distractions I'd fled. Ella called as I pondered. "Dad, heard about the offer. Take it, you deserve the empire back." Ethan's voice chimed in from the background, he'd joined her there. "Yeah, Tom. Build big. I get it now." But I saw the pattern, success chasing shadows, not substance. The next meeting, I turned them down. "Appreciate it," I told the group, folder of proposals in hand. "But we're keeping it to one spot. Open kitchen, hands-on training. Paid apprenticeships for service workers' kids, that's the core." They blinked, one pushing back. "Tom, this could be millions. Legacy stuff." I smiled. "My legacy's in the choices that free you up for what matters. One place lets me mentor directly, stay present." Marcus backed me, though he admitted later it stung a bit. "Your call, boss." The investors shrugged, wishing us well, but word spread, the wedding chef opts for heart over hustle. It fueled more buzz, drawing volunteers and small donors to the fund. With twists resolved, the opening arrived on a crisp Savannah evening. The riverfront glowed with string lights, tables set for 50. Ella flew in, her presence a quiet anchor. Ethan trailed, still on night shifts but cleaner now, sleeves starched. Guests filled the space, old staff from my restaurants, TV Sarah with a camera crew, locals drawn by the story. Marcus and I stood at the pass, directing the line. Javier plated his first dish, a simple corn relish, nerves steady. I unveiled the menu, family-inspired, from Lena's bisque to Ella's favorite peach-glazed snapper. No frills, just honest plates. The highlight came mid-service. Ella and I stepped to the front, aprons on, launching the first official menu. "To new beginnings," she said, raising a glass, her eyes clear, free of doubt. The crowd cheered as we served the signature dish together, shrimp and grits, the one from the truck. Ethan hovered nearby, not at the table but carrying a tray of waters, weaving through patrons with careful steps. His face, once smug, now held focus, a test of character just beginning. He caught my eye across the room, nodding slightly, no words, but understanding passed. Ella glanced at him, a soft smile breaking through, reconciliation simmered, earned through effort. As the night wound down, plates cleared and laughter echoed, I stepped onto the terrace. The river murmured below, stars pricking the sky. From mockery to this, family mending, purpose renewed. Lena would have approved, her lessons woven into every choice. Harbor Echo wasn't an empire, but it was real, a place where respect started in the sink and grew from there. Ethan's journey was his own, but in that moment, we all stood taller, trays or not. A year after Harbor Echo's opening, life settled into a rhythm that felt earned, like a well-seasoned sauce. The restaurant thrived without fanfare, bookings filled months ahead, not from viral hype, but word of mouth from patrons who tasted the authenticity. I worked the line most nights, Marcus handling the front, our apprentices now full team members. Javier led the prep crew, his confidence blooming as he mentored a new kid from a local diner family. The fund grew too, book royalties and a percentage of sales covered tuition for 10 more, breaking cycles in ways my old empire never could. Ella visited often, her design career booming in Charleston, but her marriage tested. Ethan stuck with the dishwasher role for months, then moved to server, learning the floor with quiet diligence. It's not glamour, he admitted over coffee one visit, but it teaches patience. Ella watched him change, small acts, like tipping generously or listening without interrupting. They attended counseling, her questions evolving into cautious hope. "He's trying, Dad," she said during a walk by the river. "Like you taught." I nodded, seeing Lena's wisdom in his effort. The viral clip faded, but its lessons lingered. I turned down more offers, a cookbook sequel, TV revivals, choosing presence. Sundays became family nights at the restaurant, closed early for just us, Ella sketching menus, Ethan clearing tables, me cooking Lena's recipes. In those moments, wealth felt complete, not in dollars, but in the freedom to build character, one plate at a time. Ethan's test continued, our bond mended through service. Harbor Echo stood as proof, empires rise and fall, but respect endures.